Good morning. It is Monday, October 3rd. I'm Jessica Lovell. Coming up today on the Morning Medical Update.
There's always a chance that cancer of any kind may return.
From reporting the news to becoming the story, popular KC News anchor Cynthia Newsome is now dealing with a new cancer diagnosis, which she shares with us to help others. 60% of COVID patients suffer digestive problems, what a new study reveals about SARS-CoV-2. And how you can take a bite out of cancer. These bagels right here helping to fund research at the University of Kansas Cancer Center. And thank you so much for joining us here on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter this morning. We are kicking off Breast Cancer Awareness Month with Pink Week, an entire week of updates focusing on the patients, physicians, treatments, and research dedicated to breast cancer. Joining us this morning to kick off Pink Week, we have oncologist and hematology specialist, Dr. Ann O'Day. And of course, you recognize this face, this wonderful lady, longtime Channel 41 News anchor, Cynthia Newsome, who has a new role. We're going to tell you all about that this morning. Good morning, ladies, to both of you. Cynthia, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, feeling good. I had treatment last Thursday, and so I had a big weekend, kind of busy, but yeah, I had a great weekend.
Good, good. And we're going to catch up with you and hear more about your story in just a moment. Dr. O'Day, always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Happy Monday to you. Glad you're with us. Okay, we know all of you have questions out there, everything from Cynthia and her treatments to new research in breast cancer. And of course, you have COVID questions, so you can send those to us through the links on your screen, or you can post them in the chat there below. 155,000 women and men currently live with metastatic breast cancer, meaning that it has spread to other parts of the body. While it is treatable, metastatic breast cancer cannot be cured for now. But for Cynthia Newsome, she hopes to use her story to not only reach others today, but to also help find future treatments and even a cure.
So what is so precious about this is that someone took the time to actually make this drawing.
You know her voice.
And they did a pretty good job.
That's you.
And you know her face.
In a month-long project we're calling Newsome's House Calls.
Kansas City News anchor Cynthia Newsome has been behind the KSHB news desk for the past 25 years.
41 News this weekend.
And I'm Cynthia Gunn.
For years, she's told stories from in and around her community.
Nothing like a little kickboxing for a heart-healthy change of heart.
But it's her own story she shares with us today.
And so I was doing a self-exam in the shower, and I felt the tumor. And I didn't know it was a tumor at that time, but I thought, okay, let's get in. Let's see what this is. Let's find out.
Cynthia was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer in 2011. It's one of the rarest and aggressive breast cancers, affecting Black women 2.7 times more than white women.
I'm stepping into my new role as breast cancer survivor.
Chemo and immunotherapy made Cynthia's cancer disappear for a time.
There's always a chance that cancer of any kind may return. So my husband and I talked about that once I had finished treatment, and I said, honey, what if? And he said, whatever happens, I'm here.
In 2019, the what if became a reality.
Hello.
Cynthia's cancer was back.
What's the latest on the scans?
It had metastasized and spread.
And I just believe that every day I have on this earth there's a purpose, there's a reason, and I want to have every day that I'm supposed to have and really deliver on that purpose. And that's why I tell people about my breast cancer.
Her philosophy, never stop living while you're still living.
What do you guys think about that?
And working is still a big part of Cynthia's life.
Putting it on your social media and your calendars.
She recently left the news desk and shifted to a new role at her news station.
Get the others excited.
Cynthia's story is also being part of the solution.
It's amazing because some of the drugs that I'm taking now were not even available when I had breast cancer in 2011.
Keep up, babe.
At the advice of her doctor at the University of Kansas Cancer Center,
I think you can move that pillow.
Cynthia entered into a new breast cancer trial.
I think it's exciting. I chose to be in a clinical trial because it could help me with my breast cancer, but I do think about, gosh, will this help someone else later in the future?
this battle is really not all about us. That what can we do? Number one, get her well and healed. But how can we allow this time to be of help to somebody else? There's nothing that I won't do to help her feel better.
As for the present,
do what you can with what you have. Enjoy your life and celebrate those around you, love those around you, because that's what it comes down to. The people who love you and the people you love.
Cynthia, so good to see you this morning. How are you doing? How are you and Ed doing?
Oh my gosh. You know what? We're going to celebrate our 21st anniversary, October 27th. So we're doing great. Yeah, we're just having a great time. We just got back from Hawaii a couple weeks ago, went to Kauai. And, you know, it's those moments where, you know, you make the sacrifice and you go do something fun and wonderful and you never regret it. And so I'm glad we went, you know, it was a sacrifice, but, you know, we had a great time.
Well, getting back to traveling, I know that's something that you've been wanting to do. Full transparency, though, I have to tell everyone, because you mentioned you and Ed celebrating. I worked with you. I interned with you back at 41 when you and Ed were engaged. You hadn't even changed your name to Newsome yet. So, and so many of us here on the Morning Medical Update have worked with you at 41 in some way or another, or doing stories with you. We know you here in our community as a leader here. You have a strong faith. My question is, though, how have both of those traits, being strong in your faith and a leader, how has that helped you deal with multiple cancer diagnoses?
You know, there is a sense of peace. Mm-hmm. I don't worry about asking the question why, because the point is, here we are. We have metastatic breast cancer. We're doing what we can to treat it. We're doing the best we can with the best people. My doctor, Dr. Sharma, is amazing. You know, I just trust in God, though. I think there's a trust and a peace that comes. Now, you know, to say you're strong is an interesting word, because your personal strength doesn't overcome challenges that you face when you don't feel well, when you're truly sick, when you're dealing with side effects and still trying to work, and, you know, you really don't, you know, you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to let people know, but you're still able to work. So you just do your thing and just try to function without people, you know, understanding that you really don't feel well today. But, you know, so I think that faith and strength and the Word of God are key to keeping my hope up, to keeping my will up to live. And I think that's important. But there's no strength that can fight this cancer. It's not about your strength. You know, if you succumb to it, you weren't strong. No, it's just living with it. Yeah. So those things are just about faith and mental health and spiritual health.
And taking it day by day. Cynthia, when did you first know? What were the signs that you had that you knew that possibly your breast cancer had returned?
So once again, you know, in 2011, I felt the lump in the shower. And again, I felt the lump, you know, when it happened again in 2019. And so I was in the shower and I do my self-exams. I'm just so adamant about telling people I don't wish for anything bad to happen to you. But whatever checks you need to be doing, please do them so that you can find out if something is wrong early as possible, so that you can get in there, get your treatment, you know, stand strong on your faith, you know, get that support group around you as fast as possible. And you have a much better shot at surviving and thriving.
Knowing your body and getting those answers and asking questions. Cynthia, you're on a new trial. You talked about you want to be part of the solution. You don't want to just stand by, and you want to be part of the future solution when it comes to breast cancer and learning more about it and trying to find those treatments. So tell us about the trial and how are you doing on it?
So I'm not even going to attempt to say the names of the drugs at all.
That's what Dr. O'Day is for. That's what Dr.
Exactly.
O'Day is for.
So I take a pill every day as part of this clinical trial. And then during the month, I have 2 weeks on. So I get treatment on a Thursday. So 2 Thursdays, and then I'm off a Thursday. And then 2 Thursdays, and I'm off a Thursday. So that's the routine. And then I take these pills, the chemo pills, every day. And originally, it really hit me hard. It hit me hard. My body just really just reacted to it, and I felt, dizzy and headachy and ill, and I had to go in and get fluids during the week, and it was really strong for me. And so after a while, we decided to reduce the strength. And so instead of taking 2 chemo pills, now I take 1, but I'm still doing the infusion. So the infusion is where you've got a port, and you go in and they pump the medicine into you through your port. So it goes straight into your blood system. And I'm going to have some scans in the next couple of weeks. And so we'll see how it's doing. But so far, scans have shown that it's really doing, quite well. We're keeping it in check. It hasn't shrunk in a while, but we're keeping it in check. So it's not going to grow and spread and cause even further illness.
Dr. O'Day, okay, you got to pronounce it. It's a Monday. Me and Cynthia can't do it. So tell us the name of them. And then I want to talk about, in Cynthia's case, is that typical to be, going to different trials and trying different things? And how hopeful is that? So
Absolutely. Cynthia's case is one of great success, and she's participating in a trial that's being led at our center by my partner, Dr. Sharma, that she mentioned. And she's using, in the trial, she's receiving not only a targeted medication, which are the pills that you spoke of, Cynthia, Apillicib. And what that does is it targets an important growth factor receptor, which is present in a large number of breast cancer cells. So that really allows us to shut down the signal to the cancer cell that it's receiving to grow and divide. The infusion that she mentioned is called sacituzumab govitecan, and what that medicine is an important new class of drugs, probably one of the most important new categories of drugs in cancer treatment today, called antibody drug conjugates, or ADCs for short. And what antibody drug conjugates are is we take molecules of chemotherapy or cytotoxic agents, and they are attached to a targeted delivery system such that the chemotherapy is literally targeted to the surface of the cancer cell. It's internalized. It's then broken apart from the target, and so the chemotherapy is deposited inside the cancer cell. It is, in essence, how I explain it to patients is kind of like a smart bomb or a Trojan horse, if you will. You're delivering the chemotherapy right where you want to, rather than infusing high doses of it into the bloodstream such that all of the normal healthy cells are damaged. We're able to give that medicine directly to the cancer cells. It allows us to get higher concentrations of medication to the cancer where we want it. The antibody drug conjugate that Cynthia is receiving right now was actually, new data was just presented a couple of weeks ago in Paris at the European Society of Medical Oncology, which showed for certain subgroups of patients, it's helping them live longer with breast cancer, which is exactly what we want to hear.
So Dr. O'Day, Cynthia has triple-negative breast cancer. How does that differ from the other types of breast cancers that we hear about, like HER2-negative?
So it's a great question. We always say that there isn't one type of breast cancer. There are at least 4 biologically distinct subtypes. And Cynthia's breast cancer, what we nickname triple-negative breast cancer, is about 15% of all breast cancers. But what we now know is that 15% of breast cancers is actually subdivided into multiple other smaller subtypes of breast cancer. We know that terminology, triple-negative breast cancer, I believe will soon go by the wayside because we now understand so much more about the specific subtypes of triple negative breast cancer that we no longer will be able to lump all of those cancers into that category. We're now talking about, is it PIK3CA mutated? Is it HER2 low? Is it BRCA mutated? Is it PD-L1 positive? So we're talking about much more specifics instead of this overarching category of triple negative breast cancer.
Which means you can specifically treat it
That's
much better.
exactly right.
I want to talk about new updates on anything regarding genetic testing for breast cancer. What are we learning?
So very importantly, the national guidelines in terms of recommendations for genetic testing were just updated. It is now recommended that for all patients with triple negative breast cancer like Cynthia, that whatever age they were diagnosed, that group of patients should undergo genetic testing. This is so critically important because we now have targeted therapies which are able to exploit that BRCA or other mutations within the cancer cell. So it used to be just a informative piece of information that allowed us to take care of that individual patient or maybe help their family members with preventative strategies. But what we now know, it is actually a therapeutic target. So very important for all patients with triple negative breast cancers to undergo genetic testing. In addition, all patients with advanced or metastatic breast cancer need to undergo genetic testing as well. As I mentioned, we have therapeutic targets for this group of women that work quite effectively. These are oral therapies taken once or twice a day, and so often can help patients live longer with less toxic treatment. So very, very important to make sure that all patients with advanced breast cancer undergo genetic testing.
And Cynthia, when we hear that phrase, living with cancer, certainly when talking about women who have metastatic cancer, how does that help in treating your cancer like an actual chronic illness rather than a cancer? Does that make a difference in the way you approach your health care?
I think it does. I think I look at it as living with metastatic breast cancer. So what can you do to live a full, productive life that's meaningful, and you still get to do the things that you like to do as much as you possibly can? And so that's called quality of life to me. It's called quality of life. And so what are you willing to accept as quality of life versus not accepting it? And so when the medicine was too strong, we backed off, and I'm feeling much, much better. And I'm able to manage now and still, work and still do, my nonprofit work and, still hang out with friends and still just hang out on the couch and watch TV with my husband and my stepson and just enjoy life.
Yeah, living like the rest of us do.
Living.
And you're doing it well. From those photos, you are. When we come back, I want to ask you about your foundation and how you're impacting young women in our area. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But I do want to get to Dr. Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control, just to talk about our COVID count as we come out of the weekend. Good morning to you.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Well, we have been looking a little bit better at the end of the week. We had the mid-20s for our active infections, which is better than the low 30s. Today we have 25 active infections with 4 in the ICU, 2 on the ventilator still, and then 21 in that recovery period. Overall, hopefully, again, it continues to go down. We know that the cases and hospitalizations nationally are decreasing as well.
So a couple headlines for you this morning, Dr. Hawkinson. Over the weekend, we learned that the seller of one COVID-19 test says that bulk orders of tests are surging ahead of the winter. That must be good news. People are stocking up and ready to kind of know their status, right?
Yeah, I think it's important. It does seem like that would be a trend towards trying to be responsible as far as testing, so you aren't going out into public if you are infected. So I think that is good. I think the biggest question remains is what is that surge going to look like? We know that most experts do anticipate some sort of increased number of cases and then subsequently, obviously, hospitalizations. But it's not clear what that will look like, again, because we know the virus can circulate just as well in warm weather also. But now we're just going to have more people because probably more people are going to be doing things inside rather than outside.
A new study dives into the effects of COVID on the colon. What are we learning about that?
Yeah, I think it goes to the same thing that we have been talking about. We've discussed issues with damage to the heart after infection, also the brain fog and brain changes. This is part of that same process, some sort of post-COVID or long COVID type syndrome why exactly, that question is being answered, it's probably a multitude of different different answers, like continued inflammatory process that's going on, and in that way, not allowing the organs to function as normally as it did prior to infection. But this is one more aspect and one more thing we talk about: persistent problems after acute infection. We know, again, it affects the brain, the heart. Obviously, here's some information now about the GI system as well.
Doc Hawk, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Let's check and see if there's any reporters on the line today. Well, then let's get to some good community questions. Georgie Ann has a question. Dr. Ade, have you heard about recent research that half an hour of walking a day reduces breast cancer recurrence by 26%? She says a friend's oncologist told her about this. So just correlation, I would imagine any sort of movement and exercise is good, but
Yes.
anything specific when it comes to breast cancer?
Yes, this is something we've actually known for some time, that women who exercise an average of about 5 hours a week, and it doesn't have to be extremely intense exercise. You don't have to be doing a CrossFit class or something like that. It can be just something as simple as walking. Patients who will exercise an average of about 5 hours a week will cut their risk of recurrence of their breast cancer significantly. It's hypothesized that this has something to do with increasing lean body mass, decreasing body fat. We know body fat produces estrogen, which is like fertilizer for many types of breast cancer. So that is the belief around that. It's also been shown recently that certain types of diets can reduce risk of recurrence and also reduce developing breast cancer, sort of a plant-forward diet, and then also a ketogenic diet. Those two diets, which probably what they have in common is reducing blood sugar levels, keeping blood sugar level, reducing insulin-like growth factors and other inflammatory markers, which are probably leading to increased risk of cancer.
But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think everyone's always looking for, what can I do? What can I, every day when I get up? Is it a movement I can make? Is it food I put into my body? I want to have some control over my health journey.
Absolutely.
So Cynthia, this one's for you. Maggie is a longtime viewer and says a lot of kind words about you this morning. So is Jay. Jay says Cynthia is such a great lady. A lot of fans out there, and you haven't left the station, by the way, because you're now doing community outreach. I want to hear about that, and Maggie's wanting to know about your charity, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing here with young women in our area.
That I'm the Community Relationships Director here at KSHB 41. And that means that I partner with the station with different organizations that are here in the community, neighborhood organizations, nonprofits, different charities, different things that, organizations that are doing good work in the community. And we want to highlight that and support it and be part of it. Hispanic Heritage Month is happening right now. We are partners in that project and doing a major number of stories about Hispanic stories here in and amazing people here in Kansas City and what they're doing and accomplishing to inspire those who watch and learn. And so that's my community work here at the television station. And we're also having an event called Gift of Soul, which we're getting ready for, which is raising money for sneakers for students who are in the Boys and Girls program in Greater Kansas City. So that's happening. And then I have my nonprofit, which is called Awesome Ambitions, and we are still recruiting for that. It's 8th through 12th grade girls. And I started that when I came to Kansas City, 26 years ago now. And it's basically college and career readiness, just taking them different places, introducing them to different business women and different career opportunities and, different life skill kinds of things and, museums, and just really giving them a good exposure to what life is like and could be like, and helping them see something that they could be. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And so we're exposing them to that. So hopefully, we'll get some girls to join in with us and participate in that. We've got volunteer business women who are giving of our time just because, we had those in our lives when we were teenagers who gave to us. So those are the two things that I do that are so important to me. And of course, just being the wife to Ed Newsome and stepmother to Kimberly and Edward is a job as well, but it's a job of joy. So I love that.
I was going to say, Cynthia, it's okay to slow down, but I know that's never going to happen, so I won't even bother. And it made me realize, it's like just you talking about the things that you do. It's like you're so needed here still. 25 years on the news desk. I feel like you're now just getting started all over again and something new, and it's really nice to see.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks to all the viewers out there who remember me from when, and I appreciate that. I really thank you so much for your care and concern. And I think that's part of my, strength, and that's part of my resilience, is to know the love is out there.
I have a question from one of our viewers asking Cynthia, what advice do you give others diagnosed with cancer? Now, I have to say one piece of advice. So I want you to give advice to those diagnosed, but when I asked you what your advice is for people, you said, actually, I have advice for people who support those going through cancer. So give us a little piece of advice for both sides of that coin.
So that's really from my husband, who, of course, is a supporter. He's, my caregiver. He's, my rock. And he realized when, people would find out I was diagnosed, they would say, let me know if there's anything I can do. Tell me, call me, here's my number. But here's the reality of it. We're never going to call. So his philosophy is, if you see a need, then meet it. I had a friend of mine come over. She saw that my kitchen, I just hadn't been able to sweep my kitchen. And she just got the broom. She didn't say, do you mind? She just got the broom and she started sweeping. If you see, somebody may need meals, maybe it's not even a need, it's just a kindness. They could totally go buy some dinner. But the kindness of reaching out with a meal without being asked, you let them know it's coming so they don't make a preparation, so they can have a night off and take a break. So if you see something, if you see a need, if they have young children, get the kids some gifts, so they can, games maybe that they can play. So find that need and meet it, and let the person know, and to make sure it's okay, and then just do it, and I'm sure they'll say yes. Now, in terms of what I would say to someone who is diagnosed with breast cancer, and that is, oh my gosh, it's not a death sentence. How many times have we said that? And metastatic is, stage 4, but just make sure that you're doing absolutely everything in your power that you believe is right to do. I'm doing, medicine. I'm leaning on my faith. I'm leaning on my support group. Those are the things that I feel that I can do. Just trying to, eat better, be healthy. Those are things that I can do. I was encouraged to hear that, just walking calmly 5 days a week could help. And so I'm gonna start doing that.
You are living, and you are living well. A couple more questions I want to ask Dr. O'Day about as the role of immunotherapy in treatment of breast cancer. Before we wrap up, I want to find out where we're heading.
Cynthia's story kind of highlighted that a little bit ago, and what we know now is that in breast cancer, not traditionally thought to be a very immunogenic cancer, we now know that certain subtypes of breast cancer can be dramatically helped or have increased response rates and even increased rates of cure when immunotherapy is partnered with cytotoxic or chemotherapy. So a new immunotherapy was approved for early stage breast cancer last year, and that is for patients that have at least stage 2 or stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, in which we give immunotherapy, or using the body's own immune system to harness it against the cancer in combination with cytotoxic chemotherapy, both before surgery and then after surgery. And what this has shown is it has increased the rates of cure for patients with early stage breast cancer. So really a paradigm shift for us in the treatment of early stage breast cancer. I just want to say thank you, Cynthia. Your story highlights so beautifully so many of our patients at the Cancer Center who have so graciously offered to participate in clinical trials that we hope not only will help you, of course, but we know for sure that it will help us continue to find cures for every patient that comes after you. And I just can't thank you enough for so graciously being an ambassador for clinical trials and the importance of that.
Well, I just thank my medical team there, Dr. Sharma and her entire team. and everybody there at the KU Cancer Center. And I'm just grateful to be in your hands. And I feel like I'm kind of in a hurry to live. I'm in a hurry to do those things that matter, and don't wait. I'm a now person. So those are things that I've gained from this.
You both said that so beautifully. We're going to wrap up with some final thoughts. And Cynthia, any other final thoughts you want to share with our viewers? Any other messages?
Just that I love you. I appreciate everybody. Realize sometimes you don't know what's going on in someone's life. I'm very public about my breast cancer diagnosis, but sometimes when people are having a hard time or a little gripey or just not energy, not enough energy and not seeming to pay attention, you might just think about maybe they don't feel well, and just have a little more mercy, a little more grace.
Well, we love you as well, Cynthia. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay.
Dr. O'Day, final thoughts from you.
We're starting out the month of October. It's just a good time to remind everyone, those of you that got behind during the height of the pandemic with your screening, your breast cancer screening, it's so important to get a high quality mammogram for all women at age 40 or younger, depending on your family history. So make sure that you get a very good high quality mammogram this year as we start off October. We know that more and more cure rates of breast cancer are continuing to increase, and the universal factor that those patients have in common is that the cancer was caught early.
Yeah.
And those patients, as Cynthia did, listened to their body and went to the doctor and sought care. So just a reminder in October, if at no other time, to make sure to do that.
Yeah, you hit that last question because Cynthia is such an advocate of self-breast exams and getting those mammograms and screenings. So thank you for just driving that home. Dr. Hawkinson, final thoughts from you today.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's so great working with and being part of the Comprehensive Cancer Center. Physicians and teams like with Dr. O'Day, and of course patients like we've heard about with Cynthia and so many other times. And I was going to just say it's important to understand the best method to go about this is the prevention, and that is with getting vaccinated, but also making sure to do those screenings and catch up on those screenings, just as Dr. O'Day had talked about.
All right, Doc Hawk, thanks so much. Okay, big plate of carbs for everybody here this morning. Throughout the month of October, Panera is selling pink ribbon bagels benefiting the University of Kansas Cancer Center. How cute are those? A portion of the proceeds for each bagel will be donated to the Cancer Center. They've been doing this for over 20 years. So if you're out and about, grab them. And Dr. O'Day, do you dare this morning?
Absolutely, it's October.
It's October. It's Monday. We need it, right? Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being with us today. Don't forget, you can catch our updates anytime by logging on to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Go out, make it a terrific Monday. And of course, a big congrats to our Chiefs last night. Thanks for keeping us up late as you do on Sundays. We'll be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Coming up tomorrow on the Morning Medical Update. These ladies gather and they paddle, and it's just what the doctor ordered. I'm Jessica Lovell. It's Pink Week coming up Tuesday. Meet the Kansas City Pink Warrior Dragon Boat team, made up of women who are all breast cancer survivors. Also meet their fun doctor who says this activity is perfect as they recover from breast reconstruction surgery. Join us on these social media channels.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcast. Now everywhere podcasts are available.